Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. This week's guest on Conversations with Big Rich is Phil Licciardi, shock builder and tuner, fab guy, Rock Zombie 4x4 club member, ex-sport bike stunt driver, dirt bike rider, and all things America. All right, Phil Licciardi, it's going to be good to have you on the podcast here and learn more about you. I first met you quite a while ago when I was hanging out with Bob Rogie and starting Cal Rocks, and you were out and about. So good to have you on here.
Thanks, glad to be here.
So let's jump right in and find out where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised partially in Plainville, Massachusetts. It's the northeastern tip of Rhode Island, pretty much, just over the border. And I was there for 14 years. Yeah, 14 years. I think we left in 95 or 96. 95.
95, 96. Right. And you were in northeast, well, in Mass, but in close to Rhode Island. Huh.
Yep.
See here, I thought you were a Cali boy the whole time.
Nope, sure wasn't. I had the accent and everything. I did 2 years in Memphis as well.
Okay.
So right after Mass, I was in Memphis for those 2 years, and then I was out in California for I guess it came out in 96 or 97 to California, and I was there for longer than I was in Massachusetts. So
right.
I guess it makes me, that.
So tell me what it was like growing up in that part of the Northeast.
It was a different world there back then. The town I was in was a really cool dirt bike community. We had a New England Trail Riding Association race through our property. There was trails everywhere. I mean, I could ride my dirt bike to school. There was off-road opportunities everywhere. And, it's all, from what my friends who still live there say, it's all built up. It's all city now. There's barely any trails or anything to go recreate on. The commies have taken over. They were taking over back then. They had the green police, the first time I ever heard of anything like that. So obviously everyone in California knows what a green sticker registration is for your dirt bike. Well, I believe Massachusetts started that first. And I got pulled out. I just got a brand new dirt bike from North County Yamaha, got shipped out, put my front wheel on, put the fender on, put the bars on, and then I was pushing it to town. I was just going to coast into town and get oil and gas and start breaking it in. I got pulled over like that. They tried to impound the bike.
For pushing it down the road?
Yeah, they just, I'm like, this bike's never been fired. It's brand new. I'm going to town. I'm rolling down, it's basically downhill all the way to town a few miles. And, I didn't think much of it. Obviously couldn't run because the bike didn't run yet. Didn't have any gas in it. And, they came and I don't know, it was a man and a woman, the green police, they called them. They had like a XL 200 dirt bike, nothing that was going to catch anything if my bike was running. And then they were towing it behind like some kind of makeshift police car at the time. And pulled me over. I stop. Obviously can't do anything about it. They read me the riot act, and I'm just a kid. They call a tow truck. Big flatbed comes and loads the bike up. My dad's going home, and he drives by. He's like, shoot, that's my son. And he stops. Well, the female cop pulls a gun on him and's like trying to hold him back at gunpoint, and he wasn't even mad yet. Well, then he got mad. And so they weren't going to get away with that in his mind. And then they had me they were writing me a ticket for being underage and not having registration, all this different bullshit. And while they were doing that, my dad went and talked to the tow truck driver, and he gave him like $40. He's like, just bring the bike back to my house. He's like, yeah, screw those folks anyways. So they brought the bike back to the house. It didn't go to impound. I ended up having to go to Boston to deal with some bullshit with that. And then, I never let that happen twice. And I ran from them. Me and my friends ran from them for years after that. It was pretty funny. Yeah. Freaking haters.
In my mind, I was like, okay, how long into the interview will it be to when I hear the first commie reference? And you didn't disappoint. It was like 4 minutes, maybe 3.
Yeah. It was accurate.
Yes.
They're just, they're terrible people. I don't know why people have to be like that, but I guess somebody's got to do it.
Right. And then all they do is create those run situations later.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They didn't like that at all, but we really enjoyed running from them. We'd go one way, then we'd blow by them the other way on the trail next to it, and then come back past them again. Just a big fat boy on an XL 200. What are you going to do, man? I'm not going to do anything. So it was pretty fun.
So then you moving to Tennessee, was that parents chasing a job, or what was that about?
Yeah, my dad's company got bought out, and he was I guess he would have been a CEO or VP or something of it, and it got bought out by Dow Corning, and they paid him for 2 years a very handsome salary to not work for a competitor. And instead of like moving in a different direction with work or something like that, he just kind of took those 2 years to, I don't know, he really improved our property and built another garage on the property and all kinds of fun stuff. And then those 2 years were up, and he's like, I need to be, the producer here again. So instead, like, my mom was a tenured math teacher in Mass, and, house was paid off, everything. They were really on their game back then. And I don't know, my dad just decided he needed to be the what do you want to call it, the provider. And so he kind of uprooted us, and off we went. And Tennessee was not ideal at the time. I can appreciate it a whole lot more now, but I didn't like it that much back then.
Especially Memphis.
Yeah, I was outside of Memphis and Germantown, and I guess if I was gonna make the connection for you, I'd say Germantown would have been like the Granite Bay.
Right.
Granite Bay is to Sacramento what Germantown was to Memphis.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, you weren't closer to downtown.
No. And we did have a lot of fun going downtown and messing around and whatnot. And I went back some years ago and saw a couple of my buddies, and we went out on the town and still had a good time. No one got stabbed. I mean, it was probably close, but we were too drunk to notice.
Right. That's a good way to spend Memphis.
Yeah, absolutely.
My only experience in Memphis was there for like 4 days for the Beale Street Music Festival along the river. Yeah.
Sure.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Man, the food and a lot of the people are awesome, and just the crime's just out of control now, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad when I was there. I mean, that was a lifetime ago though.
Right. So then you end up in Sacramento. How did that happen?
So the business deal my dad had going on, and he ended up being like a CEO of a company called Guardsmark. And if you look into the company Guardsmark, it's the owner, I don't know, hopefully he's dead by now, but he was his name was Ira Lipman, if anybody listening feels like looking that up. And the movie The Firm was based on that guy. Like the premise was changed, this, that, and the other. Apparently, it was a former disgruntled employee that decided to leave that company, and he went on to write that screenplay about this, psychopath owner boss guy. And turns out that was that guy's deal. We couldn't afford the house he wanted us to live in, so he ended up picking up the slack on whatever that cost was. He didn't want my sister and I going to public school there, so he paid the difference for us to go to. I went to an all boys school. She went to an all girls school for the first year. That was absolutely miserable. But like just the controlling aspects of this guy and the things that he wanted to do, and there was cameras in the house we didn't know about. The phone was probably bugged, tapped, this, that, and the other. So,
wow.
After year 2, we made a hasty exit, and some people that my dad had been in business with back in Massachusetts were out in the Sacramento area now, and they formed up a little operation out there where they were selling medical supplies, kind of like what his original business was back east. So it, that didn't go very well for them, but it created a great opportunity for me. I really, as much crap as I talk about California politics, I absolutely loved living there at the time and had a ball. It was a great place to grow up in my more formative years, if you will.
Right. California is a great place if you can get past the politics.
Absolutely.
I when I was a kid, I surfed, snow skied, and water skied all in one day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You can't do that in most places.
No, you can't. It's a haul to try to get that done.
So you end up in California. You're out of school by then, or did you finish high school here in California?
Yeah, I had 11th and 12th grade in California, so I got to be basically a senior twice. Because Granite Bay High School was brand new, so they basically, the people that were there from the beginning, they had a 9th and a 10th grade the first year, and then the second year I was there, so they had a 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So we were the senior class more or less 2 years in a row, which was really cool. And coming off of, as much as that all boys school sucked in Tennessee, the anything below a 70 was a failing grade, but they didn't send off the Fs to any of the other schools on the transcript. They just put the number score on there. So even though I purposely failed out of that place, a lot of my stuff transferred as C's and D's to the public school. And then, so I got credits for all that. And then it seemed like school was so far ahead of California at the time that I had so many extra credits. A lot of my 11th and 12th grade was just like gym and like outside work program and stuff like that. So I barely had 2 classes a semester. So I'd just be there for, second class, lunch, and then another class and go home. It's a pretty sweet deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
I spent my high school career getting my English credits in yearbook.
In yearbook?
In yearbook, yeah. On
Wow.
yearbook staff as the photographer. I didn't even have to do any writing.
That's badass. Heck yeah.
I had to do some captions for photos, but I would make suggestions, and then the editors would actually go through and change all that.
Oh man, that's funny.
That's
a cool deal.
Yeah, it worked. So then, did you play any sports through school or as a kid?
My parents forced me to play tennis back in the day, and I was really good. I did that so I could go ride and race dirt bikes, mountain bikes, whatever. They made me play that before. Like when I was younger, I played baseball and soccer, and I enjoyed soccer. I never played football, never played basketball. It's always a little guy. And then, so just tennis in, I didn't even have to play in high school. That was just a middle school thing. As soon as they picked me up, moved me to Tennessee against my will, they didn't make me do anything. So I just raced mountain bikes and lived my life and kind of
went to an all boys school.
Well, that was for 1 year. And then I did a public school the next year and had a freaking blast. So can't be mad at that.
So I'm envisioning you in like white shorts, short shorts, white socks, and white tennis shoes. And what color shirt would finish off that ensemble?
While playing tennis,
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything was probably brown because I was still dirty as hell and always working on stuff and doing, you know, I never did well in white. So
I just
I
want
doubt.
all your friends to think back you in white short
Oh
shorts,
yeah.
and white socks. That's all.
I get a kick out of that. People are like, you did what? I'm like, hey, was not by choice, but man, beating up on those kids that wanted to play tennis. Like think about Happy Gilmore when he's
Right.
like, I'm a hockey player, not a golfer. Like, kind of the same program for me in my mind. But it was fun beating them up. Not
Perfect.
physically, but just sending them home losing.
Right.
But what are you gonna do?
Right. So you get to Granite Bay. You're finishing up school, but not a lot of classes. Were shop classes still a thing then?
They had a really cool shop there, but it was not either they never opened it or it wasn't open yet or whatever. They might have had a little wood shop, but they did have, like what could have been an automotive shop from what I recall, but it was not an option because that's just, I would have loved to have a real shop class. I would have learned so much more, so much faster instead of just figuring it out on my own
Right.
or
And
pirate
so
4x4.
so you were still riding motorcycles and stuff?
Not really. Um, I had a dirt bike, obviously left Massachusetts with a dirt bike, brought it to Tennessee. Tiny little riding areas I had access to. Like Massachusetts, I could ride out of the house. In Tennessee, we were kind of very suburby, so I couldn't really get out and do anything. And my parents never had a pickup truck or a trailer or anything like that. So that was I didn't have any friends that were really riding down there, so we couldn't really load up and go anywhere. That kind of sucked. So I ended up selling that and just all mountain bikes until college. As soon as I was in college, I had my own shop already in Chico. I guess I kind of fast forwarded, but yeah, I had my own shop in Chico and was making my own money, paying for school, whatever. I was like, well, this is stupid. I'm going to buy a dirt bike now. So got back on the dirt bike program, and that's when that started again.
So you went to Chico for college?
I did. Yeah, I didn't finish though, like most people.
Party State. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. I definitely got a PhD in partying.
And what was your focus besides partying? Did you have a major that you were looking at?
So this gets weird again. Not unlike how weird tennis was. So started off with business because that's standard. Um, I actually learned a few things, which was cool. And then I didn't enjoy the classes anymore. Wasn't having any fun with that. And I was quite the English student since I failed 3 times in a row in that all boys school. Once during the main semester or once during the school year and then twice over summer, the guy failed me. After that, I never got less than like 100% on anything English through the rest of my whole school career, I guess you can say. So I switched to an English major. I don't know if I even formally did it. I just started taking those classes. And that was fun because I always enjoyed writing papers. I really enjoyed getting paid to write papers for other people. And and then, so I do that. And then I ended up switching to philosophy because I really liked a few of the classes I took at the beginning. You're always writing papers. It's always interesting. And then this is where my school career ended. I think I was 12 or 13 units from graduating, and then all of a sudden the philosophy class kind of switched from interesting stuff to how all the philosophers had little boys. And I decided this wasn't for me. I left my books on the table and just middle fingers and walked out of there. So never to return to school again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'd mentioned that you were working. You had your own shop and stuff at that point. Tell us how you led into that. What was the what did you major? What kind of things did you do in your shop?
Same stuff I did forever. But here's a cool story to start with. So obviously, Rock Zombies started. I think we started it formally in 2000 and then called it a club in 2001. So that was always our origination date. So I had a little shop back in the house at my parents' house. And then, we were doing all kinds of wheeling, this, that, and the other. And then I fell in love with Chico and I had to move there. So went there, and I still had all my fab tools and whatnot. And, everybody knows the name Mike Ladd from Bent and Twisted.
Oh, yeah.
Second place in Top Truck Challenge 1999. Freaking superhero, rock star of a human, just awesome guy in general. And that's kind of how that started. He invited me up for you probably remember the Dmitry and Sergey, the Vodka brothers. So they I guess it would have been Sergey's bachelor party up at the Bambi Inn, and Mike invited me to that. So I came up and had a riot with them. And I didn't move to Chico yet, but then when the time came to move to Chico, Mike's like, "Hey man, I got this shop over here. You can store all your stuff in here for now and use my shop when you need to. And then as soon as this other unit over here opens up, I was going to pick that up. And if you wanted to rent that for me, you can do that." And I was like, "Really?" So I didn't even have to be an adult yet. I didn't have to figure out, rental agreements or this, that, and the other. I just had to pay Mike the $250 a month or whatever the pittance was for that building. It was amazing. So I was just building Jeeps and Toyotas and, Cajun stuff and doing a lot of hack job work back then. But it's, some of the stuff's still out on the trail now.
So how did you learn to fab if you didn't have shop classes or anything?
Just did it. I bought it all started with a Home Depot Weld Pack 100 Fluxcore machine. And it was what I could afford. I went and got it. And I just started doing really crappy work. I mean, I even did. So as far as I know, I had the second running, driving 5.0 YJ on the planet back then. So I did that whole motor swap myself. I welded all my brackets in, did everything with a Weld Pack 100. I think those motor mounts are still on that Jeep right now and still attached to it. That is the same motor that's still in that Jeep. It hasn't come out yet. Just been
were they good welds or just a lot?
No comment. There's definitely one big center bolt backing it up because I didn't trust the welding, but they were there. It was a pretty bad deal. But yeah, that other than the wiring, I got everything done on that motor swap. I think it took 3 or 4 weeks, which felt like a lifetime. I just wanted that thing done so bad. And then I found this dude down in Sac who knew how to wire those. And he drove down and he's like, "Why don't you run up to Carl's Jr. and get me a burger or something like that?" And I was like, "All right." I've been trying to wire this thing for a whole week and I don't know how to do wires. Still don't. And so I ran down to Carl's Jr. I come back and the Jeep's running in the garage. I was like, "You son of a bitch." He's like, so he gets $300, which, made me flat broke at that time, but it was worth every penny. Jeep was up and running and it never missed a beat after that. And then I don't remember where we were going with that story.
Anyway, so the zombies, your first intro was the bachelor party?
Oh no, we were already, the Rock Zombie Club was already there. This was my first time really hanging out with Mike Ladd and and Drew Hawes. I think that's how you say their last name.
And how did you come across the Rock Zombies and get into wheeling?
Well, so obviously everyone knows Big Rob and Jeremy Dick.
Right.
And I met them. I met Big Rob because he worked at Four Wheel Parts in Sac back in the day. Met him there. He had this red CJ7 on 35-inch boggers, and I thought that thing was the coolest thing ever. And it was. I mean, at the time, that thing was just absolutely badass. He had that, and Jeremy Dick had I don't remember if it was a 4Runner or a pickup, but he had, a Toyota that was all pimped out at the time. And we just, we got hooked up. We go wheeling all the time and just it was just a freaking riot. And then we just started dragging other people into it. And, they were president and vice president, and I was the first member. And then my buddy Brendan came in, and geez, we just started snatching everybody up, and it was a riot. I mean, we did a lot more drinking than we did wheeling. but it was a good time.
And what was was the Rubicon your guys' home trail?
Yeah, we spent most of our time going to Rubicon. It was just easy, and I don't know why Fordyce wasn't always on the agenda. I think my first Fordyce trip was with Mike Ladd. I lived in Chico at the time, and he had tickets to Sierra Trek. His rig wasn't done, so I just drove him down in the Jeep, and we smashed through Fordyce. And it's the first time I saw it, and I hadn't fallen in love with that trail yet. I took a few more trips before I really liked it.
Okay. And what was your first experience coming across other clubs on the Rubicon?
Well, I mean, Pirates, of course. You can't exclude them from it.
Right.
That's the OGs right there, and whether we were trying to be like them or be some version of that, I mean, everybody ended up being really good friends in my opinion, and I still have lifelong friends
Right.
from most clubs. God, I don't know what other clubs names I can even think of to mention right now.
The one that always comes to my mind is the Outlaws.
Yep, Outlaws, a lot of good buddies in that. Oh, let's go way back machine. How about the Rubicon Porn Stars, RPS?
Right.
They were always hilarious. Keith Hanley and Floppy, or Loppy rather. Sorry, he lives out here in Dayton now, near me. Haven't seen him since he moved out here, but just noticed that he's out there. I don't know. I don't remember all the names from that club. It's been just too many years of just hard drinking and forgetting things, meeting people and pushing old memories out.
So has the club gone like the others? Like, is it more of an extreme camping club, if that?
Hard to say. I mean, we still get together and burn it down pretty good. I mean, we have a few get downs every year that are a ton of fun, and obviously Rocktoberfest is the showdown of showdowns most every year. Usually a lot more wheeling takes place when we do our event at Fordyce, but they've had the Rattlesnake Road closed, so camping at Fordyce Lakes, access to it sucks, and no one wants to go in on the top side to Meadow Lake and camp up there, which obviously, I mean, that would be ideal because you could bring a cab over in, you can bring all kinds of stuff in and just have that be home base. That doesn't really work out. So this last year we did Rubicon, and it was still one for the record books. It was a riot. Tons of people showed up. We did some wheeling. We had a rooster there. That was pretty funny.
Right. I saw that.
Yeah. So it was just a good time. We've definitely tapered off in the extreme parts, but we still have, folks like Tom Liu that are ready to destroy their stuff if there's a camera out. And it's a pretty good time. Pretty good time for sure.
Yeah, I watched Adam Dodds do his initiation run, I guess, what it was up there and you guys had the rooster.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah.
I was there for one day, one night. So of course I wasn't driving, so I was like way worse than normal. It's all blur.
So let's talk about your fab career, and you get into you're working at Mike Ladd's out in Paradise area, and because that was Paradise, right? He was in
Chico.
Chico.
He was in Chico at the time. He was in Paradise. Paradise burned down. Sucks. For so many of my friends lost their stuff,
right?
And now he's in Durham.
Okay.
It's right down the street.
Okay, but Chico. In Chico at the time, and you're going to college, and you're doing fab work. What kind of were you just doing everything or anything? What was up?
Yeah, whatever got in the way. I mean, I was always doing cages, bumpers, suspension, mostly leaf spring stuff back then. Every once in a while, I'd poorly link something, and that was really, really bad. I never did coilovers. I always had some coil springs and white body shocks or whatever people could afford. I was really, really the low end of the dollar spectrum as far as fab goes back then. It ramped up a bit after that, but I've never really considered myself, high-end fabricator, high-end builder.
And what led to you guys? Well, you got married in to Sarah, what, in 2008?
Yes, sir. Nailed it.
And how did you meet Sarah?
She stalked me on MySpace, slid in my DMs, and I was like, "Uh-oh." One of my other good buddies really had a thing for her, and she wasn't into it, sadly, for him. But so I felt bad when we went out for the first couple times, but it was, I would say, as close to love at first sight as you could ever really have happen, I guess. So we were damn near inseparable from the get, and we've been together ever since.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
And you, at what point did you leave Mike Ladd's shop? I would imagine you did that before 2008.
He actually left. So he just rented me the space next door.
Okay.
So it was still my shop the whole time. Like every once in a while I'd have me do something for him, but he had his own staff and everybody that did all kinds of work, and they were busy. So I was just doing my own thing over there. But he ended up moving to a way bigger shop, partnered up with somebody, and got a way bigger shop on the other side of town. So I just kept the lease on that one building, and I stayed there until I moved out of Chico New Year's Day of 2005. So I was gone from there. My buddy, because I had started sport bike stunt riding, that was a blip in history too. So when I started doing that in 2003, things escalated pretty good in 2004, and one of my good buddies, actually the best man at my wedding, Brandon Dodd, he sponsored me in such a way that he made my life just like super easy. Where he cut me a check, I could go get a new bike, and I could travel to all these different places. He gave me a room in his house, and then he gave me a shop at one of his warehouses, and it was just the sweetest deal ever. So all I had to do was, work a little bit to pay some of my bills, and then just travel the country and ride and compete and do shows and videos and whatnot. And that was pretty much my life for a couple of years.
So how does one get into doing that? Just, how did that all evolve?
Stunt riding?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like anything, you're probably doing it for the chicks. That was kind of how that started. I always rode dirt bikes, whatever. And then I always wanted a sport bike. I mean, who doesn't like the freedom of being able to, just throw a backpack and a helmet on and just go. So it started off as innocent enough as just, riding. And then, you're not going to not try to wheelie it. And then, of course, after a little while, that became, it started to go pretty good for me. And, the thing about the sport bike stunt riding is you either get good pretty quick or you die trying. So I didn't die, luckily. The sport bikes never hurt me. It was always dirt bikes and mini bikes. So, just got into that, and there's a forum called Stunt Life, which was just like Pirate at the time, and had the same kind of thing. So you could just hook up with people and post your stuff, and if somebody wanted you to come out and do a show or whatever, they'd find you that way, or word would spread locally. We had our club was called Sac Nuts, obviously out of Sacramento, and that name stuck like glue. We were just royalty around town, and it got known pretty good nationwide. We'd travel. Some of us would hit all the all the shows and competitions that we could, and it got pretty popular, and people would treat us really well whenever we went anywhere. So it was pretty cool.
And did you just get tired of doing it, or what was the? How did you kind of back out of that?
So meeting Sarah was a very important part of that. If it's not an industry you can be in and be in a relationship unless you have like this insane level of willpower, because there's a lot of women, just like any industry, when you're kind of doing good at your game, there's a lot of women that'll do pretty much whatever, and they'll be pushy about it too. They call them pro hos or whatever. And I made a lot of good friends in that game, and met a lot of really cool women, and a lot of them are still friends to this day. But it's not a situation where you can really be in a relationship
Right.
and not
Okay.
have some kind of issues going on as far as that goes, whether it be jealousy or girls causing problems, etc. So it was just better to just bail out of that. And before I died too, you're ripping that front brake at 120 miles per hour to roll the longest endo you can, and people died and got paralyzed all the time doing that. So I didn't need to be involved in it any longer. I did my thing. I got a few trophies and made a few bucks, and it was good enough.
Got to experience the lifestyle.
Yeah, it was an absolute riot. And to say I wasn't tired after 3 years of that would be a lie, because you're just on the road. I mean, you're on the road like three weeks a month typically, and it was tiring.
So you're still doing the fab at the same time?
Barely.
Barely.
I mean, there'd be a job sitting there at the shop or something. I'd come back and do the absolute bare minimum for a week, just to make sure everything was going the way it was supposed to be going. Because I was still splitting time with Chico, and then on the road at the time, and I was never home. I was paying for a shop and a room at a house where I just wasn't even at. So it just finally made sense when Dodd gave me that opportunity to bail out of that. So that was really cool, and then it allowed me to focus way harder for the next couple of years on the stunt riding.
So then you give up the stunt riding. You met Sarah. You get back into the fab game, or did you work for
Yeah, I
somebody
never
else?
stopped.
Okay.
I mean, I never stopped. I always had a shop somewhere. So I still had the shop at Brandon's, but now I was just paying like a little bit of rent because I wasn't riding anymore. No one was. But I mean, more or less shut the club down in 07. So I was just back to fab pretty much full time, and every once in a while I get a pretty cool gig. My buddy Tim got me hooked up with Can-Am and Ford and Toyota, and I don't know what else I did, but basically, since I was a professional stunt rider, I had the credentials to be a professional driver. So like these marketing agencies would hire us to go and do ride and drives, more or less. So what it started as was Can-Am in 07 was releasing their line of quads again. Like the name Can-Am came back again.
Right.
I don't know if you remember all that. So they were releasing their quads again, and they wanted people at all these different events to go out and build a course and then do ride and drives and lead and follows and all that kind of stuff with these new quads. And my buddy Tim, that was his program. So he drugged me in on that. And honestly, that's some of the most fun I've ever had making money. It was just really fun. Our first event was in Okeechobee, Florida, and we built this really cool course with rocks and logs and a bridge out of logs and and it was just cool as hell. But it's Mudfest in Okeechobee, Florida,
Right.
and we got to breathalyze these people to ride. I mean, once you're in this, like, whatever, I don't know how big the property was. It was a pretty big property, but once you're inside that place, there's no rules. I mean, everybody's just drunk. No one's wearing helmets. I mean, dudes are going 40 miles per hour face to face on quads and getting life flighted out of there. So we're trying to get these people to get breathalyzed and put helmets on and ride around this course. And I mean, we're talking some pretty squinty-eyed rednecks that were not interested in any of that program. Like we were supposed to do, like, I think they wanted us to do like 500 rides a day, and we were lucky if we could get like 40 or 50 cranked out, because just everyone was just loaded. So that was a flop as far as that. I mean, even our security guard. So we'd leave in the evening after we can't do anything anymore, and then we have a security guard come in, and he's just got to stay in the tent area and watch all the machines, make sure no one's messing around on the course at night. And we come back the next morning, and the grass grew a foot overnight, and this dude just like passed out under one of the tables in the grass. Apparently got all drunk with some of the people there. I mean, I would love to go to an event like that not on the clock, because I mean, everyone was having such a dang good time, except for all the people that were dying. But other than that, I mean, it looked like a riot. The trucks, those pontoon boats on 7-foot tall tractor tires, all whatever you want to call those things, the party barges,
swamp
I mean,
buggies and shit. Yeah.
yeah, man, that just looked like a riot. I got to ride on one of those for a minute. There's no seat belts, and I asked the guy about the seat belts, and he just basically looked at me and called me a pussy. I'm like, okay, so I'll just hold my beer and hold on to this rail, and here we go. It was pretty funny. Yeah, we did that one. We did an Indiana one. We did a Tyler, Texas one, and then Glamis was still to this day the best thing I ever got paid to do in my life, I think, because we didn't have to build a course or anything. We just had to do ride and drives.
Right.
And since I was like kind of the fastest one on motorized vehicles in of the people working on that stuff, they put me on one of those DS 450s. That was the new motocross quad that came out. They were all hand built, and they weren't in production yet. These were all pre-production units, and we had like 3 of them, I think. So one of us always had to be on one to be able to catch if someone decided they were going to run. They valued those at $250,000 each because they're hand built.
Wow.
So they're like, don't lose them. Like, okay. I did end up having to chase somebody back to their camp. He took off like he was going to just roll out, and I was right behind him the whole time. He never looked behind him. I followed him right back into his camp. I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, oh, I was just going to put gas in it. I'm like, are you fucking high? So I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. So I just called him out, and then, we had radios and all that. And then I brought some other people in there, and, they didn't want to press any charges, but we had to get the machine back that way. And that was pretty funny. But 10 days over Thanksgiving at Glamis, just chasing people around on quads and riding my dirt bike whenever I wasn't working. Oh, it was an absolute riot. Just good times.
Glamis is a pretty cool place, especially if you go there when it's not overcrowded.
That would be nice. I've only been there over Thanksgiving twice.
Right. We typically do a day or two of the Rebel Rally down there, and
oh, cool.
So I get a chance to drive the sand dunes, setting up and then tearing down, and then also just patrolling, you might say, making sure all the girls get back, all the ladies get back to camp. And it's I love Glamis. I don't think I would like it when it's really crowded.
I think you're right.
We're there typically the week or two before Razor Fest, and it's already starting to get crowded by the time we're out of there. And it's just, you're on the sand highway with, it's like driving through Sacramento construction.
Right. Yep. That's how it was. Back then I didn't care. I was there for the crowds. I was there, I was hucking gaps on my dirt bike when I wasn't working, and I love a good crowd for that kind of stuff. But nowadays, no, I won't do. The traffic I have in my little town now is too much for me anymore. I'll just stay home.
You're getting old.
Yeah, you hear that, man.
Stay off my lawn.
Right. That's
Exactly.
where we're at now.
Yeah, Shelly calls me the wake police. We go down to Corpus Christi area, Port Aransas, to our boat, and I'll spend half the day cussing and swearing people leaving too big a wake through the marina.
Yep. I guess
need
it
a
comes
big
with
sign.
Right. That's awesome.
And it's always these little boats, the big 80-foot plus fishing boats come in, and they're moving, but they don't leave a wake.
Huh.
It's the small little bay boats, with 6 oversized guys on it, with their stereo blasting, and they leave a wake. And it's like, you got, my boat's not this way, but you got boats in there that are, $1 million plus and getting bashed around in the marina. It's like, dumbasses.
Yeah, seriously. And people are crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, you get moved up to, you're, let's see, timeline wise, you're still in the Sacramento area.
Yeah, Folsom.
And then you finally decide you've had enough of that?
Kind of. So it's stepped to where, so I was at Folsom, my buddy Brandon's, and then Sarah and I got real serious. And I think it was only 6 months, and I moved in with her in her parents' old house in Sacramento that she was renting. So that was pretty cool. And then we tried to buy a house a bunch of times and just kept not working out. And then she tried some other different avenue and found a house, and we moved in, and we were closed in like 20 days or something like that. And that was in Citrus Heights. We were there for, I don't know, 5 years before we moved up to Gardnerville. Been here ever since. So I've been here damn near 11 years now.
Right. And what was the reason? Was it you just got tired of the commies, or you just or was it her chasing work? What caused?
No, I'd say it was a two-part thing. I mean, I never really enjoyed California politics, as we know. And I ended up breaking my neck and back in 2013, Halloween, Sand Mountain.
That's right.
And when that happened, and I knew I wasn't going to be riding track anymore, I was like, well, I don't really need to live in Sacs. It was nice being in that area because I had 10 tracks nearby, within an hour and a half, and I could ride twice a week, and it was good exercise and good for my mind and all that. But when I wasn't going to ride track anymore, I'm like, well, why do we even need to stay here? So we started looking. I'd come up here. I was pretty much ready to move here anyways, but I wasn't ready to give up the tracks yet. And I'd come up in 2012 to machine a bunch of AR lowers. And when we'd set something in the CNC machine, we'd go out and ride side-by-sides behind my buddy Chris's house, which, he owned Billet Rifle Systems, if anyone remembers that. He was the original Billet 80 guy out there. And then he also did the first ghost gun. It's pretty cool. So back, that was what, 2012. So I was out, I just fell in love with the area. It was absolutely beautiful. I hated that it was like mid-March and I was freezing out here. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with that. But, you're around it for long enough, it's not as big of a deal. So, yeah, after the neck broke, we were about done with our house in Citrus Heights anyway. So we're like, well, let's throw the last few bucks at it, put the last little bit of effort in, and get it listed. So we did, and damn near traded that house over there for this house, which, I mean, I don't know if you've probably seen pictures of the house we're in now, but versus what we had in Citrus Heights, like there's no reason why it should have been the same price.
Right.
So
location.
You got it. And then, if we sold this right now, I mean, we couldn't retire by any means, but like that would be the first good real estate move I've ever made in life. So it was a good one. We probably will finish this one up this year and maybe move a little further out, just ride the wave out of the state.
Right.
If it keeps pushing us east, if we can keep, capitalizing on that and pocketing some cash, great. We'll just do that program, retire that way.
It's kind of like a reverse of the pioneers.
Yeah.
You think about it, they all came west to make money, and now we're all trying to get out of that.
Yeah. Well, you've seen Wagons East, right? Same theory.
Right. So you got into doing shocks besides just fab work, and various other things like billet rifle, helping with that and stuff. I didn't remember that part.
I wasn't doing that for a living. I was just doing that because I hate the government.
And then you get to you get to Gardnerville, and you're still doing fab work, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was going hard at it. I guess we could just back it up a little bit. I built my first Ultra 4 car for my buddy Doug, and everyone remembers the Doug's axles situation.
Oh, that's right. Doug's axles.
Yeah, so Doug, absolute epic human. He has me build the first car. We'd gone to King of the Hammers 2011, and it was his first time going and my first time going, just to kind of watch the show. And I helped weld on an axle all night for another buddy, Jeremy Hengel from the club. He'd broke a front axle housing, so I was just drunk as hell, stick welding this axle back together all night for him, get him across that start line. And while I did have fun doing that, I watched everyone just going broke trying to make this dream happen. I mean, they're fighting with each other, and just not necessarily that group, but like just other friends in general were just having a hell of a time trying to make this little dream happen. And I left that place saying, there is no way in hell I'm ever getting involved in this situation. I'll go play. I'm not gonna be a part of it. And about 2 months later, Doug called me. He's like, "Hey, so want to build an Ultra 4 car?" I'm like, "For you? Yes." so we did that. I don't know how it happened, but 2.5 months from tube on the rack to a running, driving Ultra 4 car. It was ugly as hell. I built a rule book. I did not interpret the rules the way you could. I just built something that would pass tech no matter what. It was a big, ugly son of a bitch. And it worked okay. Had a terrible time trying to get it shock tuned. That didn't work very good. But that's kind of where all that started. So I did that rendition of the car. It was on Fox. Fox promised us the world to get it tuned. They didn't do anything. And so we never got the car working quite right. I'd try to do stuff to the shocks, but then I have to load it up and take it to Prairie City, and then realize I suck, and then load it up, take it back to the shop, work on it again. It was just not an ideal situation to learn how to shock tune. But
Right.
what became an ideal situation, as soon as I moved up to Gardnerville and I could test right out of the house. So I started pushing. I'd spent 2 years basically doing it for free right when I got here. I worked 7 days a week no matter what anyways, but I would just spend my weekends doing shock tuning for free until I felt like I was doing good enough to make a little money, and then fast forward to now.
And you, during all this, you came up with your long shock.
Yeah, that so the term for that is coil pass, and I did not know that term when I thought I was the only person on the planet to ever come up with something so stupid. Turns out there's a long history of coil passes done differently, but same theory. It's a bypass shock that holds coil springs. And so Chris Hicks, Atarac Racing, if you ever heard of that, he had a terrible situation with I can't think of the builder, but he built Tacoma looking buggies out of Colorado.
Okay.
I can't think of that guy's name, but he did that dude Chris pretty dirty. And then also that guy's shop burned down while Chris's car was in there not getting finished. All these King Shocks, killer King Shock package, all of them brand new race series, everything sitting in boxes on the floor, and the shop burns down. So the shocks got nuked. Well, Chris is like, "Can you do anything with these?" I'm like, "Shit, I don't know anything about shocks barely yet, but I mean, I'll take them." So he gives them to me, and they look like hell. Like all the plastic and shit's all melted on them, and they're just disgusting. All the blue is green, and they've been hot. Well, I end up breaking them down, and I'm like, "Oh man, there's really nothing wrong with these things. Like the fluid color is still good. It melted all the seals, whatever else, but the functioning parts of the shocks, they were in great shape." So I kind of went through them, got a game plan together, and I was like, "Oh man, I think I could finally, like, this is the avenue to make my dream a reality, because they cost me nothing and they're just sitting here." And then Vance DeMars 3D Concrete used to be part of the Wild West Motorsports track and everything up in Reno. He had a Trent Fab car, and he kept like destroying the 2.5 King IBPs when they were new shocks at the time, and they not enough Loctite on the needles. They drop needles, they just destroy themselves. So he's like, "Well, do you want to do those shocks on my car?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And so he just dropped it off and let me do my thing and slapped those on the back of that car. That was 2016, and posted everything on the internet, and the internet told me I was a fucking idiot and I was wrong, and everything's going to break and die all the time. And then somebody else who was smarter though was like, "You didn't invent that." I was like, "Fuck, like Jesus Christ, people." And then someone did link me to what a coil pass is. So I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I didn't invent it. I had no idea. I got ahead of myself saying that I maybe invented it." But everyone's showing me these coil passes, and No one had done a big one yet, though. Like, this was a 3.016 was the first ones I did. Everybody else was doing like 2.512s and just kind of, and then there was some really, really old stuff on old sand buggies and whatnot that were, you know, still small or short travel, whatever. So I still probably built the longest ones, you know, longest functioning ones. And those two that are on the back of that car, they had never had a problem in all those years. Vance won a bunch of races and did really, really good on them. And then he sold it to another guy. And this other guy overjumped something huge at Prairie City and bent both rear shafts a couple years ago, I guess. I fixed those for him, and he's just been running it since. But I won't build 3.0s anymore. I won't build anything with a 1-inch shaft anymore. Everything's like, if anyone needs them now, they're all going to be 1.25-inch shaft, big boy shocks, 3.5 to 4.5. Nothing little anymore. It's too dicey.
On those coil passes?
Yeah.
Okay. Chuck
Crossland kind of proved that he can destroy anything, but he was like snapping those things off like twigs with a 1-inch shaft. So we bumped his up to 1.25 inches, and he hasn't had a problem since.
So he's your destructive testing guy?
Yeah, he's everybody's destructive testing guy. He is. I mean, if there is a flaw, he will find it, and most everybody's appreciative of it because, you know, it's now we know. So don't do this that way, and if Chuck can't break it, then we're probably looking pretty good.
So you're still up in Gardnerville. You got, you know, a pretty nice place up there. You got your shop. You're doing shock tuning. You just built did you just build another Ultra 4 car, your own?
No, that was so the Doug Zaxel's car was what did I pick that thing up in 2021 or 2022? Doug got tired of waiting for wiring, and he wanted to start like a fire response service. So he's like, well, just, you know, get me what you can out of the car, and we'll square up. So I had a few bucks at the time, so I bought him out of the car by another buddy. Another buddy had bought the Mast. It had a Mast 466 850 horse trophy truck engine, dry sump the whole show, and like a $15,000 maximum turbo 400 fully built. So my buddy AJ bought both those for some pretty big money, which was the only reason I was able to buy out the car. So I ended up buying out the car and then putting some way cheaper parts back in it, like just I think the motor was like a 430 something LS3 based motor, and I had a turbo 400 from my other party car. It was a maximum built reed case. I put that in there and got that car dialed in and was having an absolute blast with it. It hadn't sold yet, so I was supposed to race it in the 2023 King of the Hammers. Well, it blew up on me down there. I had a bad ground cable for the Holly system. And I would have never thought, like, you'd be like clipping along, and then like the tone of the motor would change a little bit. I'm like, that's weird. And it turns out the Holly was losing power. So like, think about like an 11-to-1 pump gas motor that's, you know, pretty well strung out to 700-ish horsepower. And, you know, if you change timing on that when the voltage changes, well, yeah, after a while it put the rod through the side of the motor. So, did that. Car caught on fire. I'm like, well, I'm not racing anything. I'm never pulling up to the start line with anything. This is over. Brought the car home, had Grom build me a 408 for it. That ended up being an awesome motor. Got the car all put back together, all cleaned up. And my buddy Kent Foltz bought it. And in 2024, he had the pole qualifying position, if anyone remembers, in the We the People car. Right. So, yeah, he killed it in that. Then he had another good qualifier this year. But he's had a good run of bad luck with the car.
That's KOH, man, I tell you.
Yeah.
That race is brutal.
Oh, yeah. So we were hoping this was his year for redemption, and he ended up breaking a Spider Track's knuckle, assuming maybe they missed it in prep because it was the same corner that they lost all the wheel studs on on a front left at the Baja 1000. They had a pit crew it wasn't them, but there was just like a random pit crew out there that changed a tire for the guys that were in the car at the time, and they didn't torque the lug nuts, and they all left the chat. So I'm assuming it probably got hurt when they dropped that front corner in the dirt down there, but you can only speculate. So now he's going to have Chris Wyant build him a really badass front housing, and hopefully that's about it. They got their prep program dialed. The car hasn't missed a beat since they got their prep figured out. But a couple mechanicals here and there will take you right out.
Right. See so many cars that have hope. Are qualified cars. Guys that with a good team, good drivers, great car, and some $25 part or less takes them out.
Totally.
And it seems like year after year after year, it something like that happens to them, and it's like, I don't know where they're buying those $25 parts, but
yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, what did I have? One of my cars crossed the line this year, and it was hell of a redemption. So Matt Bradley had a bad time last year. He, car was all dialed. The biggest shock package in 4800 class. He's got 3.5 King IBPs on the front, which are unicorns. Like, you got to special order those. They don't make a spring that fits for that application either. It's a nightmare to get those things on there, but they're on there. They're monsters. They do not get hot. And then he's got 407 tube coil passes in the back that I built, and that car is an absolute monster everywhere. And last year he had I guess it was the crank position sensor go bad, and they didn't know it. And that guy, poor guy, he spent all his time, all kinds of money trying to get this thing sorted out, and they didn't know it was the crank position sensor. They were like changing every other sensor. They changed the crank position sensor, but it was the wrong one. They did he ended up sending the motor out to get rebuilt, and there was nothing wrong with the motor. And turns out there's 4 different crank position sensors for that motor, and it's almost like a crapshoot if you're going to get the right one. So as soon as he got the correct one in there, dropped it in, fired off, didn't miss a beat since, and he crossed the finish line this year. So good for him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for you guys?
Right now, I'm just real big in the shock service, sales, and tuning. There's some different collaborations with some people in the works. Some really good manufacturers have been reaching out for help on different stuff, and that's been really cool. And then just trying to help as many teams as I can. Like I do the tuning for Team GFI Kawasaki, the side-by-side stuff, because we got Zach Kissman, who's an absolute monster behind the wheel, and then of course Stone Cold Steve Austin's on that team. That's my buddy. So
Nice.
that's really cool knowing that guy. And he's just a guy. You would never, you'd think he's just like a crazy celebrity, but that's not how he is at all. He's just freaking awesome. So
you hanging out at Vora races?
No, I haven't been. I might go to this one next weekend. I'm going to be tuning. It's snowing again, so we'll see what happens with the weather leading up to it. But I'm supposed to tune like every day this coming week leading up to that race. So we'll see what happens. If I don't get a lot of tuning done, maybe Friday I just hook up and roll out there and just be out there to support, because it's not going to be as muddy out there as it is here.
Right.
So might roll over there and hang out for the weekend and try to help out as much as I can. But we'll see what happens.
Cool.
I haven't been to any races except King of the Hammers pretty much since the COVID nonsense. I don't know why. It's how it's been.
Yeah, because you did a couple of tours, didn't you, where you went all over the country doing shock tuning? Yeah,
and I'm not nearly as needed in the South anymore because we've got Chris Wyant, Diddy's Big Block Race Shop. He's down there servicing all those folks and doing a fantastic job of it. So don't really need me there. And then Andrew Sheave out in Pennsylvania is taking care of everything all the way to the Eastern Seaboard there. So, and there's other shock tuners popping up around the country. I probably should be able to name everybody's names, but I don't. I'm not super familiar. So there's a lot of people doing it now, which is good because there's a lot of people that need it done. So I'm not, I've got more work than I can do as it is, so I'm not going to hate on anybody.
Right. Are there companies, and you don't need to list them, but are there companies that you don't want to work on their shocks?
Yeah, there's plenty. Obviously, FOA is a little tough. I won't work on those, not because they're FOAs per se. I mean, there's a lot of heartbreak that comes with that. Like you might, someone will be like, I need this shock fixed. And like, I'll open it up and it will have just made metal. It's just destroyed inside.
Right.
And, so I'm like, well, the heartbreak factor was too high. So I just stopped working on those altogether. If somebody wants to, great, but it's just spend your money on a quality shock. And if you can't afford it right then, don't buy anything yet. Just wait. I know patience is tough, but just wait till you can buy a quality shock brand. You can rebuild any of the major brands a million times. And, you can start with a used one that's just not bent and smashed up and then just rebuild it when you have the money. And then you're still in a better position than buying a cheap shock. And then, I've got everyone probably remembers I don't know about everybody, but the whole Daniel Sash thing. He owns Carbon Shocks now, but back then he was all like super FOA guy, and he copied my long shock design after stealing convincing me to give him all these different specs for chassis and all this, because he was going to buy a chassis, he was going to buy long shocks from me, I was going to set them all up, and then he ended up getting a Jimmy's chassis, and he ended up making his own long shocks out of FOAs, and I guess he sent pictures of the car kind of from far away to different manufacturers for sponsorship stuff. And, a lot of them were willing to give him stuff. They're like, oh, you supported Phil and got long shots from him. And he was like, yeah, totally, blah, blah, blah. Well, then he reached out to me one day. He's like, hey, so I wanted you to hear it from me before you hear it from anyone else, but I decided to bring the long shock design in-house and do it myself, yada, yada, yada. I'm like you can't bring something in-house you didn't design. You just, okay, it's cool. You stole my design and did your thing, and then we'll let the internet decide. And the internet took him for a ride. But now he's got the Carbon Shock thing, and I guess supposedly some of them are good. I opened some over the week at Hammers, and they were absolutely just nuked. So I'm not going to work on those either.
Right. Okay. I guess that's about it. Is there anything that we've missed?
I can't think of anything. Just in my little shock dungeon doing stuff these days. That's about it. If anybody needs any suspension components or side-by-side stuff or whatever, please reach out. I'd love my sales to go back to where they were in like 2019, 2020. Let's do that.
And that's Liberty Mountain Fab?
Yep. There's no website, so catch me on Instagram or Facebook. Don't use the business Facebook for Liberty Mountain. Just find my personal one and message that, or just Instagram. Otherwise, I probably won't get it, and you'll never hear from me. And I'm not giving my phone number out.
Right. Nope, that makes sense. I get it. Okay, so if anybody wants to get hold of you, Instagram and Facebook, personal page, Phil Licciardi.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Heck yeah.
All right, Phil.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for spending the morning discussing your life and what you got going. And it's an awesome. It was awesome. Thank you.
Of course, I appreciate it. Hopefully, my boring life was interesting enough for someone to listen to. Thanks for reaching out and getting this going.
Yeah, far from boring. Far from boring. All right, you take care and have a great day.
All right, sir. We'll talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.